Hey, what's going on, guys? I am Jayson Siano from SBX, the Sabre Business Exchange,
And my name is Michael Steinberg with Headstone.
and we are What's the Dealio podcast. We're going to be talking about all the things business related, real estate.
Business acquisitions, cash flow, seller financing, getting deals done, pushing through, raising capital. The list goes on and on.
So today we're really going to just introduce ourselves. We want to get to know the audience. And for those of you who do not know us, we're going to just have a little jam session here. Mike and I are good friends, and we came together to partner on business brokerage, and we'll get into that stuff as well. But let's kick it off, Mike. Let's give the community a little background on yourself and how you got started in business.
Love it. Thanks, Jay. I'm super pumped for this podcast. I really want to dive in today about how I started selling businesses on the perimeter. I actually started in the business behind the other side of the counter. I was working in pizzerias, and I actually started right up the block, right in Melville, La Focaccia. I started
Great pizza place.
Great pizza
I didn't
place.
even know that, by the way.
Yeah, started
That's amazing.
16 years old, right? Junior in high school. I was their first employee ever. The owner of the pizzeria is a great friend of mine. His name is Joe. Definitely go in there. Great pizza. When we went in, the pizzeria wasn't as busy as it was. They took over a place that was doing about $10,000 a week in sales, which is not that. It sounds a lot, but it's not that busy of a place. I started at 16. I worked there until I was 21. So I worked there 5 years straight, 70 hours a week. And I learned everything about that business. I was behind the counter. I was making pizza. I learned how to order. I learned how to deal with people. And honestly, Joe taught me everything. And I give a lot of respect to that man because he taught me a lot about that business. So from doing that, I wanted to always do bigger things. I was young. I learned about working. And I got my real estate license. And from that, I got lucky. I was on a delivering pizza, and I stopped at a real estate broker's office, but he was also a business broker. And he told me that I can sell pizzerias, and I didn't know I could sell a pizzeria until I met this guy. So knowing everything about the pizzeria, the insides and outsides of the business, I actually sold my first pizzeria while I was working as a delivery boy in a pizzeria.
Such an amazing story. It's like if you didn't meet him, that wouldn't have clicked necessarily.
Everything happens for a reason.
It's amazing. So continue. So what happened from there?
So I sold my first pizzeria. I made 20 grand on the deal. I told Joe I got to do this part-time. He's a gentleman. He respected that. He knew I was up to big things. So he said, no problem. Whatever you got to do, Mike. So then I dabbled into other businesses. Car washes. I got my first car wash sale in 2014. I sold the Valley Stream car wash. I made about $45K on that deal. Then I told Joe, I'm doing this full time, Joe. Mike, best of luck to you. Respects that. Do it full time. Bought my own pizzeria in the city on 146 Fifth Avenue. It was called Bravo Pizza. We converted it to the Big Slice. I ran that pizza while I was selling businesses. Brought that business up from $30,000 a week to $50,000 a week. Sold my ownership in that, and then I just dove right into Empire Business Management.
So you started Empire. Was that
I started Empire in 2015.
Okay.
And then it was me, and then I hired there was a couple of brokers, one or two brokers, and then fast forward to 2022, I started Headstone, and now Headstone has over 140 brokers full-time, and we're in 23 states, and we're going to be the #1 business brokerage in the country by the end of this year. Mark my words.
That's amazing. So, and that's kind of how we came together. So we have a lot of mutual friends and contacts. We both grew up in the same neighborhood, essentially. Didn't really know that until we met. And so many people have, mentioned that we have to get together and need to meet each other and so on and so forth. And, I have a little bit of a different story. So, but it starts in the same exact area that you mentioned and where we're sitting right now, actually. And it's funny because when you're talking about La Focaccia, first off, we order from there all the time. And, I think about the real estate that it sits in, right? Because my background is real estate, but I'll give a little background on myself. So I started in commercial real estate on Long Island in 2001, working directly with the Breslin family that owns about 9 million square feet of shopping centers, which are all primarily on Long Island. The father, well, as I get to it, my partner's father, Wilbur Breslin, developed one of the first front field grocery anchored shopping centers on Long Island. And when I started in the business, I basically spent my first 6 months driving Long Island and going into every single shopping center that was worthwhile. And I took an index card and I drew the shopping center on the back of the index card. And I, carved up the exact shopping center and wrote the tenants for every shopping center on Long Island.
Wow.
And on the front of the card, I wrote the real estate location, northwest corner of X and Y roads. And then I'd get back to the office and I'd research who the owner was, get their contact information, the leasing company, if it was different, if it was a broker. And that was my first foray into the business. And it's an eat what you kill the business, commercial real estate brokerage. I had basically no success in my first, call it, year.
Which is standard, right?
Very standard, yeah. And I happened upon like a nail salon deal and like a cell phone store deal. But I actually ended up having an opportunity to pitch the Starbucks account when I was about a year and a half, 2 years in the business. And to make a long story short, I landed that account,
Wow.
which was the most amazing opportunity that I could have ever imagined. I went on to represent Starbucks exclusively for 18 years. I've done just shy of 200 Starbucks locations between New York and New Jersey. But fast forward, I was visiting friends. I went to college in Arizona. I was visiting friends in LA. And I was working out of a FedEx Kinko's, which dates me, tells my age. And I was looking out the window at this concept that I was, enamored with. Just the storefront was super unique, and it turned out to be Chipotle. So when I walked across the street, walked into Chipotle, I was like, this is special. This is something I've never seen before. And I got back to New York, and I just called Chipotle religiously and convinced them that I had to be their broker. So I ended up designing and expanding the Chipotle rollout strategy specific to Long Island. That was 2003, 4.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I did the first, dozen Chipotle locations on Long Island. From there, fast forward, I get pursued by the big firms to come work for them. I had no health insurance. I was rich on paper, but still had to wait to collect the money. And I ended up taking a check to go to CBRE to spearhead the retail services group for Long Island and the outer boroughs. That was January 2007. And I left my accounts behind because I never burn bridges. I am completely transparent, honest, and know that this industry is small, and just wanted to make sure that I didn't jeopardize my relationship with my boss, mentor at the time, Ken Breslin. And I ended up going to CBRE with no clients, picked up the phone, called Massage Envy. They put me in touch with an area developer that owned 5 states. I ended up picking him up at the airport on a Sunday morning because he had a tour with my competitor on Monday morning, which he never made it to, obviously, because that's how we do. And that turned into me learning national real estate outside of New York Metro, and not only the corporate side, which obviously Starbucks and Chipotle fall under, but the franchise business, which I've developed into several other businesses that I own today. And I say all of that to say that the Massage Envy account then developed into European Wax Center with their first 2 locations and helped them expand, helped them become a franchise and expand nationally. And then the same folks started Orange Theory Fitness. So fast forward to today, my firm Sabre is also national in nature. We transacted in just shy of 40 states so far this year. And we represent lots of different companies across the country. So we're having a lot of fun. And when Mike and I met, we joined forces because based on listening to this, you know why.
It's amazing, like the similarities. Like you were writing index cards, researching who the owners were and just grinding and hustling. I used to do the same thing. When I was on pizza deliveries at night, I used to make drop notes of letters asking business owners, telling business owners, if you're interested in selling your business, I have a buyer, and I'm slipping under the doors. And I would do that every delivery. So I relate to that, and I really appreciate that. And that's hustle right there. I love that.
I mean, I think that's the thing, Mike. Like, people don't necessarily understand how much hustle and sacrifice it takes to actually start a firm that employs other, agents, as opposed to just being a really good broker. And you and I have that in common, right? Like, yes, we're big producers and we work with great companies and people, but we also have been able to build something that's bigger than ourselves. And that's why I respect the hell out of you. And I always tell you, like, you've done it in a insane amount of time to get, where you are in such a relatively short amount of time. I'm in the business 22 years at this point. And to see what you've built in the amount of time that you've built it, just based on the timeline, it's absolutely unbelievable.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I learned from guys like you. You just motivate me. So that's
Appreciate
awesome.
that.
Yeah.
So when you talked about La Focaccia and I talked about Starbucks, there is a Starbucks in the La Focaccia shopping center.
There is.
So I think it's a natural progression for us to kind of talk about that and maybe some local stuff that we're working on currently. So, for me, I designed the Route 110 strategy for Starbucks. And when I started out, it was, there were stores without drive-thrus, but really early on, they only wanted to open drive-through locations. And I'll tell you a fun fact. The former Dairy Barn location that's like right behind us, that's next to the Beverage Barn in Orange Theory.
Yeah.
That took me from start to finish just shy of 12 years to do.
Whoa. 12 years?
12 years.
To what? Put the Dairy Barn there?
No, to convert that
to a
Dairy
Starbucks.
Barn to a Starbucks.
Got it. Oh, the one right here, north.
The one right here, yeah, exactly.
12 years.
So think about that. So as a commercial real estate broker, I started as Starbucks exclusive broker. There were so many nuances with negotiating the deal with the landlord, who, by the way, whose family owned Route 110 when it was a potato farm, right? Which a lot of the landlords on Long Island specifically.
Is that an Italian guy?
It is he Italian? I don't think so. No. But
Sorry.
no, it's all good. Just think about that though, because I don't get paid as a real estate broker until Starbucks is open and paying rent. Right? I mean, I'll get a portion of the payment upon lease execution, but just think about that business model and why I'm so interested in business brokerage.
That's a very long time. I've never heard of 12 years, but it happens. You got the deal done.
I got the deal done, fortunately, because I represented them for 12 years, right? But the point is, how many people actually represent Starbucks coffee in a certain geography? One. And how long does it take to get a deal done? If I sign a lease with Starbucks right now, I'm not getting paid a minimum of 18 months from today. If I sign the lease today, forget the work that goes into it, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me about business brokerage. Is it similar?
No.
Okay, why?
So like a pizzeria like La Focaccia, or any pizzeria that, if I'm selling a pizzeria, like the pizzeria that I sold when I was working at La Focaccia, it was called Bella Bambina's. It's still there. It's in Oakdale. It took me from getting the listing to putting the money in my pocket 2 months.
Okay. Well, that is, how many businesses could I have sold in those 12 years? By the way, guys, I'm only saying this because it's the same way that John at La Focaccia gave you the opportunity to work at La Focaccia, and as a result of delivering those pies, you met somebody who told you could be selling pizzerias instead of delivering pies. You were doing both until you could afford to just do the other one, right? I'm saying all of that because you coming into my life was the light bulb that went off about business. I get contacted all the time. We have millions of square feet that we lease as a company. I get contacted all the time by people that are interested in selling their business or want to buy a business. And as a traditional commercial real estate broker, we're just like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't do that.
Yeah, I don't do that.
You don't even pass it off to someone.
No, it's information that literally just stops right there, and we just go on to, okay, well, great. You looking to open another location? We could probably help you find that.
There's so much money in that. If you just refer that to me, and obviously now we're working together, so we can do it together, you can make, we get 10 to 12% on our commissions, especially for the smaller deals. We take minimum 12%.
But let's stop there again. So, commercial real estate, right? Residential real estate. What's an average fee, percentage-wise?
3-4%.
Yeah, 3, 4, maybe 5.
Maybe 5.
Yep. And most real estate deals are co-broked.
All of our deals are not co-broked. We do everything. We represent both sides in every deal. We don't really like working with other, we will if the other broker brings listings to the table. They have to bring value. But we like to have control on both the buyer. It's all about control, just like in real estate.
Yep.
Control on the buyer and the seller.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously when you're dealing with a retail or an office or an industrial broker, typically there's an exclusive agent on the landlord side and on the tenant side.
Yeah.
So as Sabre does both, but myself personally, I work on the tenant side primarily, and every deal's co-broked. So what you're saying is that you can close a deal way faster. Your fee percentage is practically double, and you are not co-broking.
Not co-brokering. And the best part about business brokering, all of our deals, or most of our deals, are done through seller financing. Now, what's great about that, there's a lot of great reasons, but we get paid on the whole deal. So say the deal's $1 million, and the buyer puts up $500,000, but the deal, there's another $500,000 that the seller lends to the buyer. We get paid on that full $1 million up front. So it's not like a lease where you have to wait a third.
Right.
You get a third of lease execution, you get a third. We get paid everything up front.
Do you know how many deals that I've literally with like the best credit tenants had to settle on getting paid out over 12 months, 18 months from that means that my commission is getting paid 12 to 18 months from, lease execution, a portion maybe, but typically somebody who's holding a gun to your head to pay you out over a period of 12 to 18 months. It's not upon lease execution. It's upon open for business and collecting rent. And God forbid that tenant, there's anything that they've done improperly, the landlord's holding your commission.
He's not making money, so why would he pay you?
Exactly. So on the transaction, you're getting paid right away.
We're getting paid right away. We're working on crazy deals right now. This year alone, we've sold 13 car washes.
Amazing.
Over $50 million in car washes, 23 so far. And it's just an unbelievable opportunity. I like working on the biggest deals possible with the most reasonable sellers.
Sure.
If it's a huge deal and the seller's not reasonable, I'm not working with you because we're not going to transact. But it doesn't matter about the deal size. If the seller is reasonable, we take on the listing.
Yeah, that's the same, I think, in any kind of service business. But
a lot of the brokers, they don't see that. A lot of these, they just want to get the listing, put it on the website, and wait for them to call.
Yeah.
I don't like doing that. I like getting a listing where we really priced it well, where it's going to transact. We're going to get paid on it.
Well, a lot of brokers will actually tell the owner it's worth way more than it is to get the listing, and they're doing everybody a disservice.
Because they're afraid of the confrontation.
They're afraid of the confrontation, and they're afraid of the competition.
And the competition.
My competitor is going to go in, and if they're going to get the listing, so maybe I should tell them that it's worth a little bit more, so I can get them to reduce the price, after the fact type thing,
that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and you're not really operating in the best interest of your client, which is ultimately, I think, the most important thing when you're in the business for decades, right?
Yeah, it's reputation.
It's everything.
And a great fact about business brokering, there's 3 million active real estate agents right now in the United States. There's only 12 to 15,000 business brokers.
It's crazy.
Just think about that difference.
That's insane.
It's wild.
It's insane, but it's also not surprising because I don't think a lot of people even realize business brokerage exists.
They don't. I had a lunch with Kevin O'Leary in Shark Tank, and I was sitting next to him.
Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful. So we had lunch with him. My good friend Justin Aronoff put that together. Thank you, Justin.
The homie.
The man.
The most connected man.
He's the one who put us together.
He is. That's right.
He's a beast. So we were sitting down in Miami at lunch, and I told Kevin O'Leary. He asked me what I did, what I do, and I told him I'm a business broker. And he's like, "Are you a business banker?" I'm like, "No, I'm a business broker." And he's like, "I've never heard of that before." He's like, "So you put a buyer and a seller together?" I'm like, "Yes, that's what I do." And you don't have to be, a publicly. You don't need in New York. You don't need a license to sell businesses. By the way,
that's so strange.
Not a lot of people know that.
Yeah, but in many states
in
you don't.
16
right?
states you do.
Okay.
In the rest, the 34 states, you don't.
So in the majority of the U.S., you don't need
a license,
even a real estate license.
Nope. But you need a special set of skills.
Of course.
And that's what a lot of people, they think they could just open up shop. 2 words, good luck, because it comes, it's a numbers game. You get 100 listings, a good broker is going to sell 15 to 20% of those listings.
It's really, again, to give you a shout out on the platform that you've built too. It's not and having built things, myself as well. It's a very challenging thing to do. Anyone could go out and go get a listing on a business and sell a business, but to grow a firm nationally is a different animal.
Yeah, I'm going to say it on camera. I mean, I spent $2 million in the last year putting together a very robust system. And basically, it's like, it's not Facebook, but everyone in my company can comment on listings. They can collaborate with buyers. They can send NDAs and listing agreements with a click of a button. So everything was really precisely planned and automated.
Yeah.
So we're working as smart as possible.
Yeah, and it's so well done. I mean, that's what really finished the partnership for us. I mean, it was, I knew from the minute that we got under the hood, I wouldn't even want to start going down that road and investing that type of money and hiring the team. Just the amount of, I feel like you're based in Silicon Valley with the amount of tech people that you have, doing what they do all day to keep it going,
Yeah, and thank you. You're a long-term visionary, and, we're going to do well together.
100%. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
So what else do they have in store for this podcast here?
We're going to be talking to a ton of business owners. I have guys that own hotels. I have guys that own car washes, laundromats, liquor stores, supermarkets. We'll bring on some celebrities, some people that from social media. And we'll just be talking about cash flow and businesses and deals and raising capital. The list goes on and on and on. Super excited for this.
Yeah, me too, man. And just storytelling and, sitting around with other winners and just kind of, chopping it up, really. And I'm excited because it forces us to spend more time together, which is awesome.
Me too.
So, and we'll talk about social media. We'll talk about marketing, branding, everything, right? We threw together this podcast studio here and built this What the Dealio brand in 5 minutes. And we're literally going to show people exactly, what video and content creation can do for your business as we grow the biggest business brokerage in the country and world.
Yeah. It's really global. You can sell businesses in any country.
Yep.
And I didn't even know this. Canada and England are just as big as the United States in terms of businesses.
Let's go.
Canada's bigger.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
That means there's just more and more opportunity.
It's insane.
Excellent. All right. Well, listen, for our introduction episode of What the Dealio, I'm Jayson Siano.
And I'm Mike Steinberg.
Check us out.